Today we're going to cover the 2017 AP Computer Science A FRQ. We're going to cover the phrase class. So you want to make sure that you take the time to kind of read through this on your own. Try to code it and see how it works, and then come back to it and see if you need help. So in this case, we are going to work through the phrase class. The following phrase class maintains a phrase in an instant variable. Now remember, the fact that it's an instant variable basically means that it's not static. So if it's an instant variable, that means it's a non-static variable. That means that you have to create an object in order to be able to access it. And it has methods that access and it changes the phrase. You're going to write two of those methods. Notice that they have your class, they have your variable. It's a private variable as they should. It a string and the name is a current phrase. Then it's already implementing your constructor. Basically just updates or initializes your current phrase with the method. And you need to be able to implement part A and part B. You'll notice that this method, there's no implementation for you to do, and they don't show you the implementation above. They don't show you any of the code. They did give you some information. It tells you that it's going to return the index of the nth occurrence, whether the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the first, the second of string in the current phrase. It's going to return -1 if the nth occurrence does not exist. Now, they usually give you a precondition and a postcondition. The precondition is that the length of the string is going to be greater than 0. So therefore, it's not going to be an empty string or no. And the n value that they're going to provide, which is the nth occurrence, is to be greater than 0. The postcondition is that the current phrase is not modified. Notice that gives you two parameters, the str and the n, the string and the integer, the nth occurrence. But they will not show you the implementation. So even on the left-hand side, whenever you guys are coding, you guys will not be able to see this. So one of the things that you want to do, you kind of want to hide it. So that way you're not kind of distracted by all of those, all of the code. And you are going to be implementing the replace nth occurrence, which takes three parameters: the string that you're looking for, which occurrence that you're replacing, and what you're going to replace it with. And then for the second method that you're implementing, it's going to return the index of the last occurrence, where this one will give you the nth, the fifth, the seventh. This is going to implement the nth, or excuse me, the last occurrence of the str. Returns -1. They give you a precondition and postcondition. And this is already implemented. So let's go through this method's already done for you. There's nothing for you to do here. Let's go through part A. So you want to make sure that you go through this very carefully and take your time. It's going to save you time once you start coding. So they give you very similar information, but now they give you some code segments as in the output. So on the first one, they create a new object. They call it phrase1, and they tell you a cat ate late, and that is the case on the first three. Then you're going to look for at, you're going to look for the first occurrence, and you're going to replace it with rain. So in this case, the first occurrence of at is here, and it gets replaced with rain. So now it says a crane ate late. On the second example, they construct a new object. Now, whenever they call in the non-static method, replace nth occurrence, they're looking for the at or string at, and they're looking for the sixth occurrence. So notice that we have the first occurrence, we have the second, and we have the third. There's no sixth, so it's going to stay the same. No changes. Same thing on the next one. A cat ate late. They want looking for bat. Bat is not here, nor to be found. There's no first or second occurrence, so the phrase stays the same. On the fourth one, they give you four A's, and you are going to be replacing the first occurrence, which is here, with a double X, and that's what they replace. On the last one, they give you four A's. You're looking for a double A, and you're looking for the second occurrence. So in this case, we have the first occurrence, then we have the second occurrence, and we have the third occurrence. So you're going to be replacing the second occurrence, so you're going to be replacing those two A's with a triple B, and that's what they do here. So notice that they usually give you the same information from above, and you want to make sure that you take the time to read through this part of the prompt as well. Some people start to skip it because they feel like they understand. They already took some time to read through here. They went through the example, so they feel they understand it, and they fail to read this part. So the phrase class includes the method find occurrence, which we see here. You must use the method in order to receive full credit. So that's something that it's a little handy. Will make the process much easier. And they give you the same information. So let's go and write it. Let's go ahead and code it. So see if you can code it yourself. Otherwise, just go and pause it. See if you can code it, and otherwise, I can help you. Remember, you can also email me if you have your code and it's not working out to sure and you don't want to look at the solution. Just go and email it to me, and I can help you as well. So the first thing to consider is that they give you the string that we're looking for, and we're looking for the occurrence, and we're going to replace it. So therefore, we're going to be calling this method here that's going to return the index. So we're going to look for the index, so we're going to initialize your index. We're going to declare it and initialize it with find and occurrence. That's going to take two parameters. So therefore, the arguments will be str and n. And that's going to correspond to the index that we're looking for. So let's go and write down, and I do prefer to write down, let's go and write down that a cat ate late. And I place my index so I can actually start thinking about 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And now, whenever I call this, so let's say that the string that we're going to be replacing is at. So whenever I call this method, find occurrence, it's going to return a 3. It's going to return the index. So therefore, let's assume that's going to return 3 in this case. Correct? Now what I want to do, I want to be able to replace that word, and therefore I want to separate, I want to be able to obtain the first part or the phrase. So how can I do that? So I'm going to use the current phrase. And what method can I use within a string to be able to get part of the string? It's going to be substring. And on your exam, you guys will have your reference sheet so you can use it. And it's going to be from 0 all the way to the third. Now, will it be to the second or do I need to type in a 3? Remember, the substring, whenever you type in a 3, that means that the 3 is not going to be included. But in this case, it's not going to be a 3, it's going to be index, all the way to the index, where there is the, because if this was the second occurrence, then we'll be looking at this part here, 6 and 7. So that's going to give us um, a space C. Do you guys agree? It's not going to include the A. Next, and then we're going to place it together in a few minutes. Next, we're going to, the next part of the word, we are going to take this out, so we're going to ignore it, and we're going to replace it with rep. And then the last part, we want to be able to get the rest from 5 all the way to the very end. So I'll be current, again, phrase, the substring. And we've done something similar in class. We've had several exercises. So it's going to be from here all the way to the very end. So we just need one argument. So what should go here? How can I go from, so the only information that I have is the index where this is found. So how can I make it to the 5? Correct. It's going to be the index. We're going to start the index plus the length of the word. So str dot length is, whenever you're using a string, is that a method or is that a variable for length? Correct. It's going to be a variable. And now we're going to place all three together. So therefore, we are going to have a plus let me just make it into the next line. And we're going to replace current place. It's going to replace, it's going to modify it. So it's going to be current phrase equals, excuse me. So that replaces it. Now we do have a problem. If the current phrase, if index is -1, then this is going to give us a out of bounds. So we have to be careful with that. Let me get rid of this. So if the index is equal to -1, then we want to leave it the same. So what we're going to say is if the index is not equal to -1, then we are going to replace, if it's equal to -1, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to leave it exactly as it is, so there are no modifications. Now notice that on part B, I returned 0 just to make sure that you guys are able to run it. So let's go and test the part A and see if there's any errors before we move on. And if it's idle for a few minutes, then let's try again. Refresh. There we go. So let me just paste what I had before, which is this. And now I can run it and see if it. So part A, green, cat, aid. So part A works perfect. So now let's continue to part B. Now remember that in this case, I kind of worked on the side myself first before I, what happened here? I kind of did this beforehand just to make sure that I don't take too much of your time debugging it. So part B. So let's read through part B. For part B, you want to make sure that once again you take the time to read through it again. Uh, Write the phrase method find last occurrence, which is here, which takes in the parameter str, and it's going to return the index of the last occurrence of the string of str in the current phrase. So it's going to return the last occurrence. If the given string is not found, it's going to return -1. And here's an example. So for example, if you, same thing, a cat ate late, if you're looking for the last occurrence at, which is here, the value that's going to return is 11 because that is going to be index 11. If we're looking for the phrase cat, there's only the last occurrence, the first and last occurrence is here, so I'll be returning 2. Bad is not found. Now, remember that you want to make sure that you read this part carefully. You must find enter occurrence properly to receive, you must use. So we want to make sure that we are using the find occurrence. It will make your process much easier and faster. So if you go back and remember where's the, it's not shown, and we'll notice the find occurrence is going to return the index of the nth occurrence, so the fifth, the sixth. Now we want to be able to find the last occurrence. So how can we achieve that? So I'm going to delete this since we already tested part A. I now need to return something. I'm going to return the index. So have you thought about how you want to do it? Correct. So basically, since we have to use the nth occurrence, we basically just going to say we're going to say, well, we're going to call the nth occurrence. So we're going to say find nth occurrence, and we're going to say str 1. Can you find 1? And it's going to return the index. So index, let's go and declare an integer index equal to 0. Then we're going to say, well, let's see if we can find the first index equal to the first one. If not, index equal to the second one. If not, index to, is there a third occurrence? Is there a fourth occurrence? And so on. Now, once any of this returns -1, then we know that that was the last occurrence. So if this one, if the fourth occurrence, when we call this method, if it returns -1, that means that the last occurrence was the third occurrence. Does that make sense? But we need to be able to do this within loop. So therefore, I'm not going to use an index. I might need it. So I want to be able to decide whether I want to be able to do a while loop or a for loop. Now, do we know how many times we need to be able to go through this iteration? No, because it can be, the word add can be 1,000 times. So therefore, we're going to have to use a while loop. And we're going to say while true, then, and we're going to break out of it. So, or we're going to return something, either one. Once we find which one gives you a -1, then we are going to either return the index or break out of it and then return the index afterwards. So therefore, if it goes through, then because we need to send in a 1, I must say counter plus plus, so it can start with a 1 since that it's actually index, I'm going to do a counter instead. Because I want to be able to count how many times was the first one, second one, and third one. So I'm going to count. I'm going to start at 0, and as soon as I go through, I want to be able to send a 1. So therefore, as what I'm looking for, I want to be able to see which one returns a negative 1. So I'll say if find nth occurrence, and I'm going to send str, and I'm going to send, and instead of 1 will be counter. If it's equal to negative 1, then I'm done with it. Then I am going to return the previous occurrence, right? So in case if the counter was 4, I want to be able to return this index, whatever the index is here. So therefore I'm going to return find nth occurrence. And I'll send str, and I'm going to return counter minus 1. So let's kind of digest this code and see. I'm going to leave this below. I'll delete it in a few minutes. We do have a problem. Do you guys see the problem that I have? Yeah, so in this case, if it finds on the first one, then I don't want to return the previous one. So I want to say if the counter is equal to 1, then that means that it was if the first time that if on the first one, if it returns negative 1 on the first one, right? If this gives you negative 1, that means that was never found. So I just need to be able to return negative 1 as the requirement, right? So if it gives you negative 1 in here, I just need to be able to return. Else, now one of the things that you also have to be careful is where do you place your else. Else belongs to this if statement, to the one before. Otherwise, I'm just going to return the one that I'm looking for. And I can delete this, and that is basically the code. Let me just test and run it. I might have an error. 58. What happened here? Wait. And let's see, the code matches. Excellent. So this is the code for the 2017 AP Computer Science FRQ question phrase class. Have a good day, and I'll see you guys next time.